Hey guys, it's time for Shambler versus Krankendau in today's daily Cosmonarchy cast, so let's get into it. We're on, what was that, Sigma XY? I always forget these map names even though it's right in front of my screen. Sigma XY here, we got $500 Shambler, the red Terran in the top left, and Krankendau on the bottom right. He seems to be, is this Dark Sapphire for Zerg? I'm going to say Dark Sapphire Zerg. There you go, in the bottom right-hand side. So, finally I got a replay with Krankendau in it. And I guess the color's right. Isn't that so awesome? We're going to see a TVZ. We saw PVT earlier from Steven and Ayud. Now we get to see two different players and a whole different matchup. And maybe after this, I can do like a PVZ to make all three matchups that are not mirrored show on the screen, on the stream, on the recording, on the noun that is appropriate for this sentence. Thanks for joining us for today's cast. We got Shambler scouting out after a stockade opener, and he is still not getting any Vespine. He's known to be a Maverick lover, Maverick man. Krankendau, on the other hand, looks to be going for a very delayed Larvos. He's got a lot of minerals in the bank, too. I wonder what this build is going to be, or if it is a build, in fact. Sometimes, people just sleep at the wheel, or sometimes he's cooking something special. Larvos going to pool will be his prerogative, and he's just about got enough Vespine for that first Larvos morph. There it is, and he's still harvesting Vespine, so this could be most likely a second Larvos. The thing it could be is technically we could have a fast Vornath, right, instead. Depends on how much Vespine he actually gets, but we'll keep tabs on that and see what happens. Meanwhile, the second stockade does also show up at the same time as three Vespine miners are set out for Shambler, as Worker Scout is going to arrive here just in the nick of time. This map is something that you probably won't see too much of going forward, but it was obviously when Shambler works on a map, he playtests it quite a bit, right? In this context, we have the couple of infested structures over here, and those town centers are allowed. Oh, we're going to get a dead worker. That is insult to injury. Well, that's insult and injury, I guess you would say, especially when the worker escapes. I guess that's the insult to the injury. Very, very epic there from Shambler. I'm sitting here trying to explain his map, and he's out here killing workers with workers. Obviously, the Mason Scout does have 15 extra health compared to the Droleth, right? So a little bit harder to fight in a 1v1. Terran OP, please nerf. First round of Zethicores is out. Going to be just send it out for a scout. We do have a set of, a quarry here for the harvesting of this, right? Which makes sense. But the Maverick and the Cyprian round is going to keep him insulated versus the pool shenanigans. One thing worth noting is that these advanced worker bases are probably the hardest for Zerg to hit, objectively. You have to hit tier 2 before you can do that. So this means that Krankendau probably wants to invest in flyers to air control this position so that the Taluses can't do anything on Shambler's side. But is he going to know to do that? I don't know. I'm not sure if he's up to snuff on the theory for this map. He is making an Ovoleth, so he might end up dropping, and it will be a one-base Zorkis play for him. Krankendau is fond of doing those more aggressive styles where he gets his expansion pretty late. Not every Zerg does that. In fact, I would say most Zergs try to go for a faster expansion, but I don't begrudge anybody their own playstyle. I think it's always cool to see all the different styles that are out there. Only 2 Quasilisks in the Ovoleth, so he might be trying to feign a drop. Or maybe he'll just actually get some worker damage dealt with 2 Quasi. You never know. Making 2 Circuith towards the hold here, but I think he's going to... He might turn this into a Larvosk instead. He's like expecting the drop to come out. The Zethicor has been moving around to scout. You'd be surprised how close this fight actually is. Yeah, you need to do a little bit of microing. And he's going to go ahead and burrow. Oh, almost shot to death. Regeneration has to kick in here. It's not going to be too consequential here. The Ovoleth is swatted by the bio on the rally. Comes in, sees no expansion. With this amount of Quasi, he actually should be just fine, especially since he's going to be fighting like from a closer point of reinforcements. Where is that Ovoleth gone? It's down here by the third base. Talus is already starting to saturate. That is an investment that, you're not going to be able to get anything back from. Like, you're spending money to make money, right? So unfortunately for Crank, that Droleth is not going to be taken up, and it looks like the Quasilisks will actually get a little bit of purchase here. Got a single Maverick that just popped out. That's really the only bit of defense that he's got. Gonna have to abandon that as his Mavericks start to muscle up the ramp. The second Circuith already started to mutate. I wouldn't mind if he cancels it. Yeah, I was just about to say. Definitely could do the trick. Oh, is he actually going to get a Cyprian? He could have gotten a Cyprian with that Quasi, I think. I think he narrowly would have killed it. Very interesting. Bit of a missed opportunity since Cyprians are 50 Vespene. I don't know why these Masons went all the way across there. I guess they were drilled out over here. That's the base he had vision of. He could have drilled to the gas here. But nonetheless, a very non-standard game, right? A very strange match here. Krankendau going for the Lekizalisks, lurker equivalents. You know, in Starcraft 1, all of the burrow mounds kind of look the same except for the lurkers. In Cosmonarchy, they all look a bit different because you get to see the unit that is burrowed, right? It's one of the changes from Starcraft 2 that I thought visually was very nice. That Zoryus does not survive for very long, body blocking all those shots, but it provides a little bit of vision and allows the Lakers to get burrowed. That is going to be a quick stuffing of this attack. Not really that much that you can do. Natural will now be taken. Now remember, Shambler has the worker advantage, but he also has the extra Vespene advantage of harvesting from these ridges, right? And as Terran, you can actually build on those ridges to cap them. Unless they're placed in such a way that it does not allow for you to cap them, which is fine if that happens. I'm not really sure the utility of the single mineral field, but I guess that also exists. It's definitely more of a gas thing, right? You look at it and you're like, yeah, the gas is more important there for sure. He is getting his worker scout to return one extra mineral as well. So he's got a little bit more efficiency than Crank is all I'm trying to say. 2 pairs of Nathacores are going to patrol the skies. Looks like this will be enough to send these Taluses packing once those do arrive. Definitely needs to happen sooner rather than later for Crank to be even on economy with his opponent. And I think at this point the Taluses have paid for themselves, so it's not even going to be like what I was trying to talk about earlier, where, oh yeah, you make your Taluses and then they don't do anything, so then you have like limited efficiency and you have actually been kind of set behind by making them. The Avaleth is scouting this and sees everything here, reporting everything back to the organ, the central hive organ. All right, Krankendau thinking about maybe taking a third base. No, that's a Quasilisk moving up there. I thought maybe it would be a time to double expand or something. He's going to add another anti-drop defense in his main base. Expecting drops. I wonder if he probably saw the star pad being made, but it's actually an ant seal first. Nathacores have started to strike. One Talus going down, the rest of them are pulled away. Needs to keep those Nathacores like patrolling in the area, and that will force like a Wraith to pull them away, or more likely Shambler will for now just start harvesting with them in the natural. So again, not really the biggest of denials, but reduces the amount of Vespene that he's got. You can see here he's just patrolling all the potential neutral spots since he cannot currently make use of them, and 6 Gorgacores are being made. Potentially a very deadly attack possible on the biostack. So they will munch through the Anseal shields very nicely with their splash. Yeah, if it gets up to a really high number, you could absolutely see the Gorgs wrecking havoc here. Wrecking, whatever. Getting wrecked. That's what Shambler's about to be. If Krankendau has his way. First Gorgs are hatching. A couple more have been queued up, or one more has been queued up. 2 Eskagants, so he is going to be capping his gas. We love to see that. Capping his ridges. Has Shambler been doing that? Doesn't really look like it. He's just been enjoying the fact that he has that extra, gas mining with the Taluses, and no longer does he have it. Roving the map with his bio. Zethacor doing dodges. That's like the highest stakes game of dodgeball. It's dodge bolt, dodge railgun, dodge Chevy. I'm not a car guy. The Gorgs are stacked up here. They will absorb the Cyprian shots, so it's not like you can deal splash damage with this army that Shambler has, but it's still a little bit scary to go up against something like this. Unfortunately for Shambler, he did not stem that Maverick, so it'll need some backup to kill the Quads. Just kind of moving around to see where the army is, and yeah, you can see the lake is in Gorg Rome is mostly just like, it's awaiting some reinforcements, but it's allowing Krankendau to get his third base really drolled up here. Only now is the treasury floating over. We have a Talus making the stockade for the wall, and here comes the dissension, but it's only a couple of Gorgs that actually make it to the back line. Still, ends up being pretty efficient there, all things considered. Maybe not cost efficient, but he actually kills most of the bio. So the threat of the attack is gone, and Krankendau has the economic advantage now. So as long as he ends up queuing up a few more units and doesn't just get run over by the Remax, he could absolutely be in a winning position. Kagran coming for Crank. Still patrolling all the positions, making sure that no advanced workers are harvesting from those bases. 2 Anseals blocking the way. No, 3 Anseals actually in total. No anti-air right now. Gorgs do attack air, but not nearly as well as they attack ground targets. Iris for tier 2. So Crank is in a very brittle position right now, but he might still be able to hold. He does have Lake is on the way. He's got a bunch of Zoryus just for chaff, basically, for the front line to absorb the damage. 2 Gorgs are on the way as well. He's just spending down his gas when he can and adding more Zoryus in the meanwhile. I'd love to see him go for a flood of Zeths and just come in here and shut down this base. Another use for his larva and his minerals in the current form. But as of right now, he's just going to add more static defense to his 3rd base. I see all the movement of his patrols. I keep thinking maybe he's thinking about taking a cheeky 4th somewhere, but not quite happening right now. Instead, he's wrapping around where the army is. And again, I mean, he's got circuits over here. He is going to have to fall back. He comes in back just to see what's going on, and he will end up getting some Gorgs to spawn. If he can get them right onto the bio here, he can get some good damage. The Ant Seals were not in a position to shield that, so a lot of damage dealt to those Mavericks, softening them up for the Lakis spines that are about to come out. And look at that, just a total wipe of the Bioforce over here before any economic damage can be dealt. So very nice there. The Ant Seals will escape just fine. But again, like, even though that was potentially more cost efficient, 3 dead Lakizilisks, 2 dead Gorgs, and a whole bunch of mineral sinks that got blown up as well, it still ends up being pretty significant that Krankendau maintains his economic advantage. And, you know, he's probably going to look to expand a few more times, has his tier 2 starting to actuate with the Mutat Spire on the way. He might just end up flooding Mutas. We'll see. Obviously, Cyprians can be very, very deadly to them. And even Mavericks with Stim are very, very good as well. This mineral-only base is going to get shut down. There's only 2 workers mining there, so it's not the end of the world. And now with the Lakis on the other side of the map, when you are Zerg and you are on your opponent's half of the map, keeping them pseudo-contained, soft-contained, keeping all of their forces in one spot, more or less, you're definitely feeling good. I'll say that much. Anchor being constructed on the front line. The Lakis take an advanced position. They are within shot of the Cyprian, so they do end up dying. No Zoryus to block the shots of the Cyp there. More Zoryus where that came from, that's for sure. And it's 18 Protathalors coming in to range down the army. He does need Lakis with this, or Gorgs, or some kind of splash damage that will preferably keep the bio at bay, because Protathalors are single target. They're really good versus mech. They're pretty good versus air. Now that they actually shoot up, they're pretty good versus air. We do have a Nidus coming. I guess that'll probably connect the 3rd or 4th base. Interesting choices there. Still no advanced worker mining happening in those corners, by the way, by either player. Which is fine, but maybe a missed opportunity on this map. No air control from Shambler to finish that off, even though he has the star pad. Just wanted to continuously make Ant Seals instead. Now he's going to push forward. He is going to meet all of the Zoryus and the Protathalors. I don't really like this composition versus what Shambler has. He is making some Sikralisks, and Krankendau will be able to use that to bust down the Ant Seal shields, so that's something. But right now, it does feel like he just won't have the damage output that he needs to finish the job. The Protathalors are going to start targeting down those Ant Seals, revealing that Tier 2 has been taken. You can see, this is the job of the Zoryus. They're literally just tanking. They're not even attacking right now. They're just kind of going back and forth as a phalanx to prevent the Protathalors from taking damage. And maybe this is going to be enough to overwhelm. Now he's 6 on him, and the ensnare from the Rillarocors that are spawning out of those Zoryus are definitely going to allow him to take the fight there. I wasn't a believer, but Krankendau has certainly changed my mind. A lot more Sikralisks are being produced as well. See if they get rallied in with the rest of the crew. Not so many Zoryus left over after that fight. The Remax is faster for Shambler. And no focus fire has really been done to the Protathalors to try to actually bring down the Ant Seals, it feels like. Maybe 1 or 2 of them have gone down, but he's mostly just trying to overwhelm that back line there. And he's doing so, but he's lost his front line. He needs to fall back. The Zoryus are gone. He's now going to try to make his stutter steps happen. And Tier 2 is coming for the Shambler. His gas expenditure, especially after losing that the gas mining in the ridges behind his base, definitely proving a little bit rough. So, delayed his Tier 2 quite a bit. 4th base is not fully saturated, but he's starting some static defense over there. Plenty more workers where that came from as well. His Sikralisk army, the Dino Men, are on the way. Shout out Dino Man one time. As the Ant Seal stack is probably not going to be long for this world. We don't have great defense out of Shambler either. Crank has got a good amount of money in the bank. He could definitely invest into some more meat shields like the Zoryus. The Sikralisks are taking a lot of damage, but if you stand the Ant Seals on top of the bio, you're just going to take more splash, and that will rout the first round of Cyprians. There's only Mavericks left over, which might still be able to do a bit of a duel here. Only a couple Sikralisks left. Yeah, they are going to get wiped out, and with the Ant Seals protecting them, this army is really showing what I was most concerned about, right? From Krankendau's side. Like, hey, dude, You do not have the spread damage. You only have ranged kind of like single target. That's not going to be enough to deal with bio, of all things. You're just going to overkill a lot. Low DPS efficiency there with the attack speed of the Protathlor being what it is. He's got more Sikralisks where that came from. He definitely can hold, even if it's not cost efficient. And remember, his economy is looking better. Need to maybe see him get out on the map elsewhere with some more flanks. Another Droleth moving to take the reservoirs over here, it looks like. Adding more and more on the static defense side. These Mavericks guarding a potential 5th or 6th base. And we are going to see a 4th base taken for Shambler. He lands the Ministry or builds it there on location. I'm not sure which. He's going to go ahead and harvest with the Taluses. Right now, it feels like Krankendau's in a bit of a holding pattern. What kind of tech is he going to get? What kind of army is he going to make? He's mostly just doubling down on the Protathlors. Meanwhile, the mech has started to take shape, so we're going to see some Cyclops mixed in, help deal with those Sikralisks most likely, or maybe also the Rokors if Zoryus continue to foment. Tier 2 is complete for Shambler, but he's not using it for anything yet, besides gas caps. Starting Mantles. That's going to be his move. A couple Zoryus are mixed in here. Protathlor's catching some stragglers. Again, this composition looks like it'll be pretty hard to bust into, but the Antseals take a lot of damage from the splash of the Sikralisks, right? So there is that at the very least. Let's see. They're not really able to get in to actually do some damage to this bio stack. The Sikralisk just getting blown up by the Cyprian shots, it feels like. Not that many Zoryus. They're slowly maybe breaking through. Protathlor is getting that steady damage dealt. It looks like they will overwhelm at the last second. The Antseals can't stand in one spot because the Sikralisks will deal with them all in pretty much one fell swoop due to their splash damage. So Shambler not feeling confident enough to rely on his shielding, and now his production is threatened by the Protathlors. His rally point collecting lots of bodies. There's not so many, Zerg army here. There's not really that many reinforcements coming either, so it does feel like maybe this is going to be enough. One more Protathlor should go down here. No, actually, it is going to be kited back there at the last second, living with just 15 health. Really no lasting damage seems to have been dealt to Shambler overall, but it did reset his army. That's usually better for Zerg. We'll have to see whether or not it ends up being for Krank, because he is really on the Protathlor train here, trying to make the style work. I feel like with the amount of economic advantage he had, he could have won this game a lot differently with different maps, different composition rather. But as of right now, he's still, I guess, he's certainly still dictating the pace of the game. It just feels like the transition out from Shambler is going to be pretty powerful. Potentially. He's got 10 Antseals stacked up. The Sikralisks haven't really been able to munch on them. We got more of them coming. A couple Lakes here to try to shred the bio as they charge forward, but going to be a little bit before those are ready. What else is Krankendau thinking? He's got his extra base. He's got his hatch. He's mining from the reservoirs to get that extra Vespene. That's going to be a position that maybe Shambler's going to want to target once he becomes aware of it. The counter position of this here, as you can see. And he's kind of moving forward, but right now he might at first see the Kagra for the 4th base. And the 5th proper is on the way. Yeah, he's going to stem in. There's Circuits and Scorchriths. This is not going to be a position that he's going to break. There's even a Protathlor kind of loose over here. And yeah, unfortunately, that was a death march. That was a death stim. More or less gets cleaned up entirely. Mantle's added. Lake is added. Okay, we've got Durandals and we've got Sentinels. That's definitely going to make attacking into this position a bit harder. If you end up going for a couple rounds of mutas, we would absolutely see Krankendau take his advantaged spot and go somewhere else with it. Some Lake is getting caught in the middle of the map. One of them should end up getting killed. Auto gun from the Durandal, narrowly missing out on a kill. Meanwhile, the front gate is now threatened from a different angle than Krankendau has historically targeted. Using the Zoryus to speed up the rest of the army, the Sikralisks are in a much more threatening position for those Antseals, but they do end up cowering behind the Mavericks. We'll see if the bio line is enough. Getting caught up on all their DPS being used on the stockades. The Zerg army not really able to deliver as of right now. No Lake is with the army either. So he kills some of the production, but it's all the tier 1 production, right? Not really that much else. The one Sikralisk trying its best to reduce the Antseal count, and Shambler is being very, very, I would say, lazy in some ways with his Antseal positioning. Audacious, even. Now the Lakers are burrowing, and he cannot chase with only Cyprians. The Durandal is the last big target to get sniped, and now it's just about managing this move. Yeah, maybe he didn't realize the Protathlors were changed some time ago now to shoot hair. Yes. Oh, look, it's Arbuz. Well, Anseal's moving in. There's 3 of them. So there's still a couple left. The Lakers are being a little bit rough there with their positioning. They are going to get cleaned up after all. And you're seeing, again, this is a very strange kind of composition that is being used. If this was versus a mech player, that would be a very, very different outcome because Protathlors could actually get single target picks off. You saw their efficacy versus something like the Durandal. And even like those Anseals once they were finally down to a more manageable stack. But as of right now, this is not looking too hot. The workers revealing the position here. Krankendau is not going to be able to get too much done over here. This is a cheeky attempt to take and get another base. He's got okay saturation down here. Once he remembers those workers, he can do that. He's got some tier 2 anti-air defenses coming as well. Really consolidating his position over here in the gas base and over here. Grass Eater also in the observation booth, watching what's happening with great interest. Anseal taking quite a few hits. Not really that much here, but another round is going to be moving out, and there's almost no defense down here at the 5th base. I thought that might be where some of those static defense was being made. He's actually going to try to see if he can't, like, execute most of this composition here. He's like trying to back him into a corner and really make it hurt. He's going to burrow a lot of his lake is. Not all of them, and some of them are stacked up as well, which doesn't really help here. Meanwhile, the 5th base is getting torn asunder by the Shambler. So he trades this army for a 5th base, and he even scouts in to see that the gas has been taken. Crank has a lot of money. What's he going to make? 25 Vilgora cores? Okay, I guess there goes his money. I don't think that's going to be the choice that's going to save him either. He burrows all his Protathlors. He could have picked a couple of Anseals. And now he's actually going to get stormed at the gates. He has some good static defense over here. Some of these Durandals are a little bit wounded as well, which doesn't necessarily help, but they're kind of ignoring the static defense right now and just going after the workers. It's, I mean, it's a depleted base. It's not really the end of the world for Krankendau to lose this, but the more worrisome situation here is what happens if he can't actually kill the army. And yeah, I feel like he realized, man, I bungled that. GG. Krankendau is going to be a little bit sorry for that. Like, that was an opportunity for Shambler to get shown up on his own territory there for sure. And I think if he had picked almost any other composition, which sounds harsh to say, but I know Crank won't take it as a personal slight. It's just like the specific composition he picked makes sense versus mech, makes sense versus Protoss even. And it even had some interesting results versus Bio with the Zorius kind of like body blocking most of the Cyprian shells and stuff. But at the end of the day, you definitely needed more crowd control to deal with what Shambler was throwing out there. So GG's. We'll be back with another cast tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. And subscribe if you're not already. You can head on over to our coffee page if you want to donate to us and further project development. We would appreciate it. And we're out of here for now. Peace.